The brand new M2 Pro MacBook Pro is starting at £2,149 and the M2 Max MacBook Pro is coming in at £3,349. While these laptops are probably the best laptops ever made, or one of them anyway, especially for video editing, the M1 Macbook Air is currently available for under £1,000 at £999 on the Apple Store. So is it really worth paying over double and triple the price of the M1 Macbook Air when you can probably pick up the deal of a lifetime to a lot of people with these M1 MacBooks? I've had my MacBook Air now for almost 2 years and I gotta say it's still an absolute beast in 2023, and it still baffles me to this day that it still doesn't have a fan. Firstly, I do want to say what I use this Mac for, because at the end of the day we all use laptops for different reasons. I use my Mac every single day for Premiere Pro, for my YouTube channel and other projects that I'm working on. I use it for photo editing on Lightroom and Photoshop. So with all these applications, I upgraded to the 16GB RAM version to be able to run all of these programs on my Mac seamlessly. Spending the extra £200 to get the 16GB of RAM was actually the best choice I've ever made, because sometimes Lightroom in itself can take up 9GB of RAM, and that's already more than the 8GB that it comes with it on its base model. And especially when I'm exporting a YouTube video, for example, in Premiere Pro, and I might want to make my thumbnail in Lightroom and Photoshop, having 16GB of RAM isn't perfect. I got them, it's so much better than 80GB, so I'm really happy I did upgrade. And if you do decide to buy one of these laptops, I really do suggest that you do buy the 16GB version. Depending on how heavy the video actually is that I'm exporting, and obviously depending on what photos I'm using to edit, when I have Lightroom and Photoshop open at once, I do actually normally have to wait until Premiere Pro is finished exporting the video to actually be able to make my thumbnail itself, because it does come a little bit laggy then. However, with the power of these M1, M2 chips in these MacBooks, I've got to admit, I don't have to wait very long at all, because the export times on this machine is an absolute joke, I've got to say. Bearing in mind, I am using a Canon EOS R, and the majority of the time I'm shooting in 1080p 60 frames per second and sometimes 4K in 25 frames per second, so I'm not using 4K 60 or 4K 120 at 10-bit 422. If you are using, for example, a Canon R5 and shooting at 4K 120, then it will probably take a lot longer to export as well. At the end of the day, it's still a really great machine for exporting videos, because it is really fast. The longest I've actually had to wait for a video to export, and thinking at the top of my head, is about 10 minutes. Also, again, when you actually are editing in Premiere Pro, any like playback scrubbing at all might be a little bit laggy if you're using like 4K 60 or 4K 120. However, you can just like lower the resolution of the preview to like 1/2 or 1/4, and it should just play back smooth. However, I must say, if you are a motion graphics designer who uses After Effects a lot with Premiere Pro, then I'm not sure 16GB of RAM will be enough for you, especially when it does struggle with Lightroom and Premiere Pro. After Effects is probably the most heaviest program out there to actually use when you're actually making any kind of content, so you might actually have to bump that up to 32GB, and unfortunately with these M1 Macbook Airs, and also on the MacBook Pro as well, it's only 16GB. So I do suggest maybe that's when you do go up to the M2s, when you can actually get a 32GB version. I'm not saying it's unusable at all, because I actually have tried it out and used it a little bit now and again on this laptop, and it did actually run quite smoothly. But then again, I'm not working on layers and layers and layers, working on it all day, as well as Premiere Pro on the side. So I'm not the best person to talk about After Effects with using this laptop, because I actually did delete it and I don't use it anymore. But just going from RAM in general and how heavy that After Effects program is, there is an option of having, I think, 96GB of RAM on the new M2 Max MacBook Pro, which is ridiculous and probably all you'll ever need, but it's an option if you do want to go and get it. Also, when I actually bought my M1 Macbook Air in 2021, I did go for the base 256GB of storage, and I am a little bit on the fence of this. I'm not really sure if I should have went with that or upgraded to 500GB. Now, I don't think you should max it out completely. If you're going to get one, either go for the base or 500GB, because I gotta admit, you can just buy external SSDs for probably a lot cheaper, and also it's not just on that machine, you can just constantly swap them out all the time. So I do suggest you get that. The only reason why I was a little bit regretting getting a 256GB, even though it's £200, is because for the best part of a year, I've been struggling to get 20GB free on this MacBook, and it has been stressing me out a lot. It has slowed down my workflow quite a lot, especially in Premiere Pro. However, I did actually find the solution for this, and I gotta admit, it's a little bit of a stupid one from me. I actually downloaded Clean My Mac, and it only cost me £24 for the year, and I gotta admit, it's one of the best choices I've made to actually buy that, because in the end, basically what you can do, you can run like a diagnostics on your SSD, and it tells you exactly how much gigabytes is in these folders. And I found out that there's about 60GB of After Effects caches, which I don't even have the app, like I mentioned earlier, anymore. So now I have over 120GB free. So now I'm actually quite happy I did get the base model, because all I do is actually edit off my external hard drive, and if I want a faster one like an SSD, I can just edit off that and store all my files on hard drives, which is an actual cheaper way to actually go about it, especially when you can actually get a 5TB hard drive for £100 £100, and I think a 2TB hard drive for like £150 or something. Whereas if you do upgrade to the 500GB on this MacBook, it's an extra £200. So it's a complete waste of money. And one of the best things about this MacBook when I did buy it, and what I was really looking forward to when I was actually interested in buying a laptop in general, was this amazing battery life. And I've got to say, at the start, this battery life on the computer was amazing. You could get up to, I think, 18 hours of just everyday general use. So I could edit in bed, I could edit at my desk, I could bring it out with me. But however, 2 years later, I just looked on my battery percentage and it's on about 86%. So it has gone down 14% in less than 2 years. And I got to admit, the battery performance of this is not very good anymore, because a lot of the time it does drain quite quickly. Now, bearing in mind, remember, I am using Lightroom, Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and sometimes I'm using them all together. So I'm not surprised that it does come down quite a bit. At the minute now, as you can see, I've got this set up here, and basically I'll just leave it on my desk all the time now, leaving it plugged into my monitor with a keyboard and mouse. So that's basically my setup now, and it has been for quite a while, and that's really what I actually like. I do like editing in bed, I gotta admit. With the 13-inch size of the actual MacBook itself, it is a little bit small for video editing, especially coming from a dual monitor setup at work. Coming home to a 13-inch display using Premiere Pro is not the best. The new 16-inch MacBook I think is a little bit better. Apart from that, like, I could take this anywhere with me. It's so light, it's so small as well, being 13 inches. That is the pro of it, and you can just, it fits right in my camera bag. Going back to the battery life, if you're generally going to be using, like, for example, Word or watching sports like on BT or Sky Sports or anything like that, the battery life will be fine. It will last quite a while. Now, I do have to say, this is a big flaw compared to the new MacBooks, and it depends on what you use and how much you use of it. But the annoying thing about this M1 MacBook Air, and it was a big annoying thing for a lot of people, and that's why they've changed it now, is the ports on this actual laptop itself. This Mac only has 2 USB-C Thunderbolt ports and also just a headphone jack, which is really, really annoying, which means if you want to plug any USB into it, like a external hard drive or a SD card, for example, you're gonna have to get one of these external USB hubs for it, basically, and it depends on which one you can get. Some of them are better than others, and obviously it just adds an extra cost on top of it as well. And it is annoying having one of these sticking out your laptop or like floating around, depends on which version you get, all the time when you actually want to use it. Because if you're editing off an SSD or editing off a hard drive and you want a backup footage, for example, this is going to be in your laptop all the time. And I gotta admit, I can't remember a time where I actually haven't used this, and it is really annoying. Whereas on the new M1 Macs, I think they have USB ports, and they also have a SD card reader as well, so you don't have to have one of these ports always hanging in all the time. But going back to the actual chip itself, the M1 chip was an absolute revelation. I gotta admit, I think it blew so many people away with actually how unbelievable this chip actually is on the performance side. I'm actually blown away. I'm coming from a Intel 5 core, I think, just a HP laptop, and it was terrible. Like, Premiere Pro was so laggy, and I was like, if I need to carry on doing this YouTube, doing these videos, I need to upgrade to an actual good laptop. And obviously this M1 Mac came out at the time, and I thought, you know what, if I'm gonna go hard. And my god, am I glad I actually ended up buying this laptop, because the M1 chip is an absolute joke. It's so fast, it's so quiet, and it's so cool. I still can't believe this computer does not have a fan. So it's so quiet because there's no fan, and on top of that, because it's so quiet, it's like, how does it get cool? I still don't really know how it gets cool, but a lot of the time, especially in the winter, if I actually touch the Mac itself, like right now, it's absolutely stone cold freezing, and it's really weird. The only times it really gets hot is if I'm exporting a big load on Premiere Pro and also like editing in Lightroom, for example, and it's not like it's going to get really hot to the fact that you're burning your legs when it's on your lap. It's not that hot at all. So these M1 chips are a joke. They export so quickly as well, and loading apps, I remember going from my HP laptop, loading Prem, it took ages. Going to this M1 Mac, it loads so fast. There's literally, I can't remember the last time I had to wait for a program to actually load. A good way to actually compare it with the loading the apps so fast is if going from a PS4, loading up the apps and actually having loading screens in the game, to going to a PS5 where the game loads so fast and there's literally no loading screens. If you've played Spider-Man Miles Morales, then there is literally no loading screens in that whole game. This is literally what it's like going from like a Intel chip HP computer, or even the MacBooks Intel Macs, to the M1 chip. That is a really good way of putting it, because it is a joke. But at the end of the day, these M1 chips are the best of the best, and it's actually a reason why you should be buying one of these M1 MacBook Airs or MacBook Pros in 2023, because they are absolutely unbelievable. I love mine so much, and you'll be able to use it for years to come. It's that good, it's that future-proof, it's that quick, cool, everything about it. So if you are interested in picking one of these M1 MacBooks up, and I really do suggest you do, I will leave the link in the description below for you to go buy. buy, so it's really easy for you. And if you did enjoy this video and want to see more like this, why not hit that subscribe button, because I do love doing these tech reviews. Also, if you're into your Apple products, you might like this video right here, where I actually try and save you a lot of money by actually buying the SE over the Apple Watch Series 8. So if you do want to go save some money and you do want to go buy a new Apple Watch, make sure you watch this video next. So thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. See you later.